All right, guys, we are back with our next video of the STAAR test, and this one's called "A Feathers, Fat, and Freezing." So let me point to that title. Oh, guys, do you think my hands look younger? Don't they look younger? Isn't that amazing? Oh, yeah. Actually, nope, those are Luke's hands. These are my hands. What do you think? Do they look younger now? Did the mask work? I had you going, didn't I? What if they look like that? Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Thank you, Luke, for your help. You can go back to do what you were doing now. Bye-bye. Okay. Close the door, please. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to do a feathers, fat, and freezing, guys. I liked this story. I should say it was a comparing piece because you have the nonfiction and compared to this poem. Okay. I like it because I've always called Abby Chickadee, so she's going to love that I'm saying this on the video. But I found out some things about chickadees, you know, that they're resilient and they're brave and they go through hard times and they do so in an amazing way. So I thought that was pretty cool. So that's my hope for my chickadee, I guess. Okay, so we're going to start going over these questions, okay? So number 15 says the word accumulate comes from the Latin cumulus, like the clouds, which means a pile. What does accumulated in paragraph 9 mean? A lot of people get thrown off by these questions that have something about Latin roots or Greek roots or whatever kind of root it might be. I have to let you know that the STAAR test is trying to test your knowledge of Greek and Latin roots, but it's really hard for them to do that because they can't really expect you to know all that. So they put that in the stem of the question because that's something they're really wanting to have on the STAAR test, but they don't know how else to incorporate it. So just ignore that part. If it throws you off, what you really need is this part. What does accumulated in paragraph 9 mean? Okay, it says, throughout the night chickadees burn their recently accumulated fat, and by the next morning, none is left. So accumulated fat, it said that they increased their body fat during the day, like stoking the fire before going to bed. So they increased it, right? So we have some context clues that can help us, but of course we have our dictionary. So if we looked that up, we would know it does not mean lost, it does not mean awakened, it does not mean warmed, it means gathered, okay? And pile, gather, those make sense, right? So let's go on to, before I forget, the first 4 letters of your code word. I was going to tell you way up here and I forgot. The first 4 letters are STAAR, S-T-A-R. The last 5 letters are Bucks, B-U-C-K-S. Yep, that's right, Starbucks. Okay, number 16. What is the author's primary purpose in writing the selection? Okay, so primary means main, their main objective. And so we're going to revisit, if you saw it on another question, but if you haven't, we're going to talk about it more later. Pie, okay? Persuade, inform, entertain, and expose emotion, okay? That's what pie stands for, all right? The reason we add that last E is because of the poetry component that is on our test. Sometimes poetry doesn't persuade, inform, or entertain. It just exposes an emotion. So we have to have all of those letters. Pie, okay? F, to provide information about the best locations for chickadees to live in order to survive. Well, provide information, that's our verb, seems like that we might be on the right track because this first selection was informative, right? Of feathers, fat, and freezing. It was informative. It told us all about chickadees and how they stay warm in the winter. But it didn't tell us the best locations for chickadees to live in order to survive. Okay? So I cannot choose F. Okay, G is our better answer. To describe the ways chickadees have adapted to be able to stay alive in cold climates. Yes, they live in cold climates, and it talked about that. And it did give us lots of ways that they've adapted to stay alive, like their feathers, fluffing their feathers, and their feet, how they allow their feet to get cold, and how they accumulate fat during the day so that they can have it at night. So many different ways that they've adapted to stay alive in cold climates. So G is a good choice. Our code word for number 16 is glitter. Glitter. Okay. H, to communicate the problems chickadees encounter as a result of their small size. Well, it didn't say it was because of their small size. It did say they were small, but that's only one little part of it. There's so much more. So that's not the primary purpose, is it? J says to explain how the feathers of chickadees function in different environments. Well, the feathers, it did talk about the feathers, but it didn't say in different environments, right? And that's only part of what is happening in the selection. The feathers was just a little part of it. So we've got to go with G over those other choices. Okay? All right, guys. Now let's see what we've got over here. Number 17. Which sentence best supports the idea that chickadees take action to keep their bodies warm at night? Okay? So we've got to look at this word, these two words, take action. So we've got to pick one where they're doing something to keep their bodies warm at night. Okay, let's see. This means that sometimes there is well over 100-degree difference between a chickadee's body and the air temperature only an inch away. Okay, that means it's talking about their feathers, and when they fluff their feathers, and the feathers protect them because then the cold air stays further out from their bodies, right? But does it say anything about night? No. Okay. B, without any feathered insulation, heat would quickly be lost and much energy wasted in attempting to keep their toes as warm as the rest of the body. Well, okay, that is all of the time, not just at night. And do they take action there? They're not taking any action about their toes. That just happens to them. Okay, so I don't think that one is a good answer to our question. C is our better choice. It says, since they don't have crops in which they can store food to eat later, they must eat enough each day to survive the long 18-hour night. Look at that. It's about night, which our question says it must be. And the bird is taking action. They store food. They eat enough each day to survive the night. So they must do something. So C is a good choice. D, they do not roost together in flocks as some birds do, but spend the night alone. Okay, well, the problem with this one, it is about night, and it is about something that they take action, I guess, on, because they're loners instead of birds that flock together. But you have to ask yourself, if they were birds that stayed together, wouldn't that keep them warmer? So this is not something that they do to keep warm. They must have a different reason for not being birds that sleep at the same place at night, right? They don't huddle together for warmth. So D does not help us answer this question. Okay, our code word for number 17 is chicken wings. Chicken wings. Okay, number 18, the best summary of the selection. I'm going to remind you of how we do these summary questions. We think of our umbrella that goes all the way across the story. Okay, we want it to have the beginning, the middle, the end, and it needs to have the theme. Okay, so that says theme. I forgot to put another hump on that M, but it's supposed to be theme. Theme is the overall message of the story, right? What the author's trying to get across to us. And so we want to make sure that our summary has the beginning, middle, end, and theme be met. And what we don't want are these little details, okay? These are just little things. We want the thing that covers the entire story, okay? So let's go through here. F says, chickadees may be small birds, but they are very strong and intelligent. Unlike other birds, chickadees do not migrate in the winter. Instead, they enjoy staying in cold climates such as Alaska, even though the temperature can be much colder than their bodies. Okay, well, this one has some problems because this is from the beginning of the excerpt. This is from the middle of the excerpt, but a lot of the stuff in this answer choice is totally off track because it's not about them enjoying staying in cold climates, right? It is how they stay warm when the weather is cold. And this one totally misses the mark. So it does not have that theme that we need. And it doesn't have the end of the story as well. Oh, and I say story. It's not a story, is it? Excerpt, selection. Chickadees are tiny birds that can be found in extremely cold climates. That's the beginning. To stay warm, they rely on fluffing their feathers, eating lots of food, and using the nights for sleeping. They have found many ways to protect their bodies from becoming too cold. Okay, this is the theme of the entire selection. So we had beginning, middle, end, and theme. This is our best choice because of that. Choice H. I'm going to tell you the code word right here, this pink line. When the winters grow colder, chickadees spend time fluffing their feathers. That seems like a detail. I mean, it is important, but this is a whole long sentence just about that one detail. Seems like an awful lot to say in the summary. The colder it becomes, the more they fluff. Oh, now we're still talking about the feathers. So that sometimes they look like furry balls. Oh, how cute. By doing this, they're able to stay warm and protect their skin from the icy temperatures an inch away. Well, this is all just about one detail from the story. Really doesn't have beginning, middle, end, or theme because it's just one of these little details. J. Oh, before I go on to J, your code word for number 18 is T-Rex. Not Tyrannosaurus Rex, T-Rex. Okay. J. Many people have seen the tiny birds known as black-capped chickadees. Not really sure why we need to know that many people have seen them. That wasn't really what we were talking about, but okay. Although these birds are only the size of a person's thumb, they have very thick feathers. Okay, but it's not saying why the feathers are important. They also prepare by storing food so they can survive during long winters. Okay, that had two of the things that they do to stay warm. This one has much more. Has beginning, middle, end, and theme. This one just has beginning, middle, maybe it has end. I'm not sure, but it definitely doesn't have theme. So G is our better choice. Okay, let's move on to number 19. Now we're talking about the poem. Use Chickadee's song to answer questions 19 through 24. Okay, so number 19. Okay, what does the imagery in lines 9 and 10 of the poem suggest about the speaker? Okay, 9 and 10 of the poem. The sun wheels high, the cardinal trills. We sip the drips of icicles. Okay, who's the we? Chickadees, right? So the speaker is a chickadee. The speaker of the poem is a bird. Okay, so the sun wheels high. So when the sun wheels high, it's like midday, right? The cardinal starts singing his song. And we sip the drips of icicles. So they're getting a drink because the icicles are melting because the sun is finally out and it's warm, right? So that's what we need to think about here. Okay, so it said the speaker feels concerned about how quickly the day passes. There's no evidence of any concern. In fact, they're happy about the way this time is passing because they get a drink, right? So concern is not the right word. B, the speaker, before we go on, let's talk about our code word, which is Lightning McQueen. Okay, Lightning McQueen. Answer choice B, the speaker feels bothered by the dripping water. Not bothered by it because it's good for the chickadee. The chickadee's getting a drink. The speaker feels relieved to see another type of bird. Well, okay. It said the cardinal trills. But the cardinal is trilling because the weather is better. We don't have any evidence that the chickadee is at all interested in the cardinal. The chickadee is interested in the icicle. D is our best choice. The speaker feels encouraged by the change in weather conditions. Yes, because sipping the drips of icicles, it's melting, so it's getting warmer, which means things are going to be easier for the chickadee. So the chickadee is encouraged. Okay, number 20. The actions described in the first stanza, lines 1 through 4, suggest that the speaker is. Okay, the first stanza, people kind of sometimes forget that a stanza is like a paragraph in a poem. So this is what we're talking about. From dawn to dusk in darkling air. Ooh, look at that alliteration. Dawn to dusk in darkling air. From dawn to dusk in darkling air, we glean and gulp and pluck and snare. Then find a roost that's snug and tight to brave the long and frozen night. Okay, that's the first stanza. The actions described in the first stanza suggest that the speaker is surprised. Do we see anything to say that they're surprised? Like, oh my gosh, it got cold. I'm so shocked that it's cold here. No, I don't see anything that shows any surprise that it got cold. Okay. Hardworking. That's our best answer. And we can see evidence of that because it says, from dawn to dusk, we glean and gulp and pluck and snare. They're hard at work. Okay? Because they've got to eat during the day. And we learned that from the other selection. But even just looking at the poem, we can see they're doing a lot, right? All during the day. Then, when it's night, they've got to find a place that's snug and tight to make sure that they survive the night, okay? So, hardworking, dawn to dusk, evidence. Carefree, I don't know. They don't seem that carefree. They seem like they've got a lot on their mind, a lot of things to concern them with the long and frozen night. Greedy. Well, it does say that they glean and gulp and pluck and snare, but I don't know if it's greedy because they're just trying to survive the night, right? And we don't have any evidence that they want more than they need. So we can't say greedy is a good word for it. So our best choice is G, hardworking. And our code word for number 20 is wiggle worm. Wiggle worm. Okay. Number 21, the poet's use of line length I'm reading my stuff up here now. The poet's use of line length helps contribute to the poem's what? Okay, a lot of you were like, line length? What are we talking about? Well, each line of a poem, 1 line, 2, 3, 4, lines 1 through 4. So this is a line, right? So it's talking about the length of the lines. Back when you were in elementary school, you used to clap them out. Remember? You would clap and you'd say, from dawn to dusk in darkling air. Or you would clap out the syllables. Remember counting the syllables in elementary school? That's what we're talking about when we talk about line length. It's really called meter, okay? Because the poet chooses how many syllables per line. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, coincidence, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, now it's seeming a little weird to be a coincidence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, this has got to be a real thing. 8 syllables per line. So that's the meter. Okay, so what does this line length do for the poem? Does it change the tone? Well, tone is the attitude that the author takes towards its subject. So I'm not thinking line length has anything to do with the tone, right? Vivid imagery. Well, imagery has to do with word choice and how we can picture things in our mind. Don't think that having 8 syllables per line helps us to picture what's in the poem. What it does do is creates rhythm. Like remember when you clapped it out in elementary school, you were clapping, it created a rhythm. The 8 syllables per line makes a rhythm in the poem. So C is our best choice. D, alliteration. Alliteration, remember, is the repetition of consonant sounds. We do have alliteration in this poem, but it has nothing to do with line length. Okay, so our best choice is rhythm, and our code word for number 21 is koala bear. Koala bear. Like, you know, in Australia, I'm really concerned about the koala bears and the, you know, all of the different wildlife in Australia because of all the fires. I know it's been bad for them. Okay, so koala bears. Number 22, what does the repetition in line 6 and 5 emphasize? Let's see what we're talking about. Line 6 and 5. How do we count lines anyhow in a poem? Only every 5th line is numbered. So we've got to figure if this one's 5, this one must be 6, right? So sing Phoebe and laugh at the weather. Sing Phoebe, laugh at the weather. That's the repetition we're talking about, 6 and 15. So they're laughing at the weather. And they're singing Phoebe. Phoebe. Phoebe sings on Friends. Oh, that's not what it's talking about. Okay, so it says, oh, where was I? Wrong page. Okay. All right. The speaker's willingness to join other birds? No. And in fact, it does not join other birds. There is a cardinal in the poem, but they're laughing at the weather. And it has nothing to do with joining other birds. Okay? Your code word, by the way, for number 22 is fireman. Fireman. Okay? G, the speaker's confidence in surviving a harsh winter. It says they laugh at the weather, right? So, if they're laughing at it, they must have confidence about their ability to live through it, right? So we have evidence for that one. H, the speaker's cheerfulness when experiencing an unfamiliar situation. Well, the word unfamiliar is what eliminates this answer choice because they choose to live here. That is what that's the environment they're adapted to. So it's not unfamiliar. And in fact, we know from the other selection that chickadees do not migrate further south for winter. So it's where they live is very familiar because that's where they stay. Okay. Now, the speaker is cheerful. So part of this answer choice is correct. Part of it is incorrect. So please don't get tricked by answer choices that are only partially correct. Okay. Choice J, the speaker's enjoyment of winter. Okay, they're laughing at the weather, but they're not laughing because of the weather. It's not like they're enjoying the cold. And if we read the whole poem, we know that it's not an enjoyable thing. They have to do a lot to survive it. So I don't know that laughing at the weather is really showing enjoyment. It's just that they feel like they can handle it. Okay? Number 23. The imagery in lines 3 and 4 of the poem creates a sense of. Okay. Imagery is when we can picture things in our mind. Okay? We use the 5 senses. Sight, sound, all of those things. It's what comes alive for us as a reader. Okay, so the imagery in lines 3 and 4 of the poem. Find a roost that's snug and tight, to brave the long and frozen night. Okay, so can we just picture this little bird finding a little roost and snuggling in, right? Snug and tight, like when getting tucked in for the night almost, right? Snug and tight. So let's see. Loneliness? Not in line 3 and 4. Okay? Snug and tight. We have no indication that the bird feels lonely right there. Affection? Well, for whom? Okay? Snug and tight. When we feel snug and tight, we might feel affection. But in this poem, the chickadee is not with any other birds. Okay, so we don't see much affection here. Acceptance. Well, acceptance of what? What are they accepting? The night? That's a little iffy. Our better choice would be security, because snug and tight shows that the bird feels secure. Correct? Okay. So your code word for number 23 is roses are red. You must write the entire thing. Roses are red. Number 24. The rhythm and rhyme scheme used in the poem contributes to a mood of. Okay, so we talked about the rhythm, 8 syllables per line. The rhyme scheme is talking about the ends of the lines. Do they rhyme? Okay. We have air, snare, tight, night. So it goes A, B, B. Feather, weather, C, C. Clever, forever, D, D. See our pattern? A, B, B, C, C, D, D. Okay? So we definitely do have a rhyme scheme. Now, why do we have rhythm and rhyme scheme? What does it make us feel? Okay? It contributes to a mood. Mood is the feeling that the reader gets. So when we read this poem, what do we feel based on how the poem moves, the rhythm, and how it rhymes? Okay? Gratefulness. Well, I'm not really sure how a rhyme scheme could show us gratefulness. The bird is grateful at the end of the poem, probably because winter's ended. Okay, but let's move on. Cheerful energy. Well, yes, because we have evidence to show energy. This poem moves quickly because of the rhyme scheme, and because of the rhythm, and the rhyme scheme is very playful. Okay, it's very obvious and playful. It's got kind of a joyous feel to it. Okay, and plus when we look at the subject matter, the chickadee is laughing at the weather and doing all these things that contributes to this cheerful energy that we get from this poem. Okay, it's a mood of energy and happiness. Okay, curiosity. I don't know that the bird was really that curious about anything in the poem. Mutual respect. Well, you'd have to know between whom. It was really just about the chickadees, right? I don't know that it was about respect at all. Okay, so your code word for number 24 is, let's see, ninja. That's the code word, ninja. Okay. All right, now here's our comparing ones. Some of us seem to have some problems with this one, with these, okay? So let's talk about them. Number 25, what do both the selection and the poem describe? We've got to find evidence from both to answer these questions. Okay, let's go move from D back to A, which is our right choice. So D says that changes that occur inside the bodies of the chickadees. Only the first selection talked about inside the bodies. It'd be really weird if the poem started talking about inside the bodies of the chickadees and it didn't do that. So D is not our answer. What chickadees must do without in harsh conditions. Well, we kind of got a feeling that they do have to do without. They're probably not just stuffed full and happy all the time in the winter. It's a rough time. But this is our own presumption. The selection doesn't describe this. The first selection doesn't, and the poem doesn't either. This is our assumption. So C is not the best choice. B, ways that chickadees help each other survive. No, in fact, it talked about how they're kind of alone, right? Even though in the poem it says we, they're all kind of doing their own thing to survive. So not B. Choice A is our better choice. It says methods that the chickadees use to stay warm. Well, in the first one, we have lots of methods that they use to stay warm. And in the poem, it did talk about their feathers, and it did talk about finding a snug place to sleep and all those sorts of things. So both of them did have A. So that is our best choice, okay? Our code word for Number 25 is tick-tock. Okay, tick-tock. Now you notice I'm saying it like a clock says it, not like TikTok, like you guys say it because it's an app. Anyway, okay, moving on. 26, which means you should spell it like the clock sound, not the app sound, or not the way the app is spelled, because that's incorrect. Okay. Anyway, okay, number 26. Which statement from the selection is best supported by the poem? Some of y'all had trouble with this question because what you're looking for is they're going to give us a statement from the selection, the first one, the nonfiction one, and we're going to say which one of those would be supported by the poem. In other words, which one would the poem agree with and have evidence for? Okay? These friendly little birds are often seen at bird feeders throughout the winter. Well, there was no bird feeder in the poem, so it's not that one. G, they're plump-looking critters with black, white, and gray feathers, and they live year-round in the forests of North America from Alaska through Canada and across the northern states. Okay, it never mentions the color of the birds in the poem. It does kind of, I don't know if it said they were plump-looking critters. Maybe it did, but it doesn't mention their colors, and it doesn't mention where they live. We can guess it's somewhere cold, but we don't know it's specifically these places. Okay? H, chickadees begin preparing for winter while the green leaves of summer are still on the trees. Well, it says dawn to dusk in the poem, but that's the only time frame we're given. And we get the feeling it's cold at the beginning of the poem, so it's not summer in the poem. It doesn't talk about the long process that the chickadees go through. It starts when it's already cold, okay? J, although fragile in many ways, the tiny black-capped chickadee shows how tough it really is by surviving the bitterly cold winters of northern North America. Well, we have evidence in the poem because it says that the chickadee is brave. They brave the night. Brave and tough, kind of similar, right? And then surviving the bitterly cold winters. Talks about all the ways in the poem that they survive the bitterly cold winters, right? They're not fragile. They're resilient and tough. That's kind of the point of the poem, isn't it? Okay, so that one has evidence to back it up. Okay, your code word on number 26 is greasers. The greasers. Number 27, which is an action in the poem that is not described in the selection? So we're looking for something that is in the poem, not in the selection. Storing food in tree bark. It doesn't mention that in the poem. Okay, so we cannot pick A because that's not in the poem. Okay, that would not answer the question. B, allowing feet to become cold. That was only in the first part. That was only in the first selection. Didn't talk about the feet being cold in the poem. So B is not our choice. D is also not our choice because it says burning fat all night long. Doesn't mention that in the poem. Okay, it doesn't talk about them burning the fat. So really the only one that's in the poem is choice C, drinking water from icicles. That was in the poem and was not in the selection. Never said anything about how they got water. So, I was kind of glad to learn. How are they getting water? That's how they do it. So choice C is our best choice. Our code word for number 27 is bah humbug. Okay, almost done. This one's a long one. Okay, the selection is different from the poem in that the poem describes how the chickadee, all right, it says, we're looking for the difference. So the poem, how is the selection different from the poem? Okay, F says the chickadee realizes that winter is coming. That happens in both of them. Okay, so that's not a difference. Spends time collecting food. That happens in both of them. So that's not a difference either. H tends to become hungrier as it gets colder. That was only in the first selection. Okay, it didn't mention that the chickadee got hungrier in the poem. J becomes aware that winter is finally ending. Okay, the poem does describe that when that the chickadee is aware that winter is ending. The icicles start melting, all of that stuff. We did not see that in the selection. Okay, so that's one difference. So J is our best answer choice, and our code word is bathrobe. Bathrobe. Okay, number 29, and then we're going to be done with this video. Woohoo! What do both the selection and the poem reveal about the chickadee? All right, it's more active in summer than in winter. Well, this only focuses on the winter in both of them. So we don't know if they're more active in summer than in winter. We really just don't know that. B, it is curious about its surroundings. Maybe in the poem. I don't think it said that at all in the first selection. It is adapted to its environment. I think we have evidence for that because it seems to handle the situation well in the poem, and in the selection it told us all the different ways chickadees do that, okay? So C looks like a good answer choice. D, it is capable of changing its body temperature. That was only in the first selection. It didn't mention that in the poem, so that's not our best choice. C is our best choice here. Okay, and our code word is duck, duck, goose. All right, thanks, guys. I know that one was a long one. You probably spent a lot of time fast forwarding, and I don't blame you. So I will see you on the next video. Thanks. Bye-bye.